All right, so this is us explaining scientifically correct Master E, or I could say statistically correct Master E. I wasn't sure I was going to make a video about this, but here we are. The idea behind this build is utilizing runes and items that are basically everything is hyper optimized, or I shouldn't say hyper optimized. Basically, it's just optimized based on the most recent win rate data for this patch. This is the highest win rate way to play Master E right now on this patch, which is, I mean, I don't know what this patch is, but the date is May 9th, 2025. This current patch, this is the best build for Master E according to data from a trusted website that I think XPedo made. Yeah, I think it's him. But yeah, anyways, so I can't take credit for this build at all because it was brought to my attention by this guy in my Discord who also is sometimes active in the E community, like on Reddit and stuff. Hamilton, aka MILT, he thought of this build / he's the one who kind of like found out about it because he has access to this website. It's not publicly available. You have to be a subscriber to whoever is the streamer that made it to have access to it or something like that. So he has access to this website and he looked into Yi and he found this build. And this is basically it. I'll start off by just explaining the build. So basically, you have to take, it's an on-hit build. You go lethal tempo, triumph alacrity, and then last stand. Last stand's actually higher, like it helps you win more games. If you, how do I explain this? Basically, the way the website works is every time there's a choice between like taking different runes or taking different items, it'll show you how much your chance of winning increases or decreases based on taking different options. So for example, choosing between the different runes where last stand is, taking coup de grace decreases your win rate, your chance of winning by like point something percent, maybe like 0.11% or something like that. I can't remember. Secondary is the resolve. So this is kind of weird. I wasn't really, I mean, this is still kind of weird to me, but also I feel like in a way it makes sense. I'll explain. So basically, the runes are overgrowth and conditioning. So this is a more tanky setup for Yi. And I've felt for a while now that the meta has been slowly changing towards favoring a more tanky, bruisery on-hit Yi playstyle. I think that kind of a meta has been becoming, or that kind of a playstyle for Yi has become increasingly favorable for Yi over recent months, ever since they started nerfing a lot of the damage in the game. Not by any means is this the only correct way, but technically based on data, this is the statistically highest win rate rune setup. Okay, with these runes. Wait, that's so weird. It won't let me. It won't let me buy items. Oh, I have to buy this first. Whoa, I didn't know. Okay, anyways, so I guess they just added that. So, yeah, jungle item is blue smite. Blue smite has a notably higher win rate compared to green smite. We're discussing the technically highest, statistically highest win rate build for Yi in the current patch. And it's not all this is not just stuff that's highest win rate for Yi in the current patch only. A lot of this stuff has been kind of like quote unquote hidden tech, I guess you could say, that's been really, the data behind some of these choices has looked really good on Yi for a long time, but it's kind of been under the radar, especially because a lot of the higher elo well-known content creators like Scenarios are not like doing this stuff, you know? It's kind of going under the radar. So it's Rageblade, Bork. In terms of boots, it should always be Mercs or Steel Caps. Probably Mercs is technically a little bit higher win rate, but obviously you should get Mercs or Steel Caps depending on the game, like what makes sense, right? But don't go Berserkers. I actually love Berserkers just personally, but the data says Merc Treads and Steel Caps are better. So these three items to start, and then your third item should either be DD or Wit's End or Hullbreaker. These are the three items that have the highest win rates. Again, this is all according to that website that aggregates data and like compares different options and how much each choice affects your win rate, whether it bumps it up by 1%, 2%, or decreases it by 1%, 2%, or whatever. This is not Lolalytics, which is the site that I personally use the most and trust the most, and I think it's the gold standard right now, but it's not like, it's not the same as this website that was made by, I think it's XPedo. I could be wrong on that, but it's, yeah, it's a private site. You need like, you need to pay basically to access it, is my understanding. And then late game items, you could definitely, I mean, I actually don't know exactly like what is like after these three items, after DD, what's the next like highest win rate item. I'm not sure, but it's some combination of, you could either get wits or Hullbreaker, right? You could get the items that you didn't buy. Also good late game items include, specifically for late game items that do well, are Random Omen, GA, and apparently Sterax. That's kind of I mean, this one's just kind of like, I don't understand. I'm kind of confused, but hey, that's what it says. If it were up to me, like, I don't know, I'd have to test Jantrax a lot to feel confident in it. Just personally, I would probably opt for either GA or Random Omen when it's a good game for it. If I were doing this, it would probably be something like this. I can't sell my Blue Smite, so just pretend this Blue Smite is my Merc Treads or Steel Caps, and last item I get like Hullbreaker or GA or Randuin's. Probably a good default build is something like this, especially if you're carrying GA is good, and if you pop your GA, you need to buy something else, Hullbreaker. This is a good default build. So this is mathematically correct, Master Yi. You're taking Resolve, you're taking Last Stand with Lethal Temple, you're going on hit, you're rushing Rageblade, and you're, after Rageblade, you go Rageblade into Bork, into ideally Death's Dance, but also Wits and Hullbreaker are good. Attack speed, attack damage, and then the one you want that is highest win rate is the Scaling Health Rune, which is already standard. I think that's, most Yis are taking the Scaling Health Rune by default anyway, so that's nothing special. I guess another thing I'll mention that's kind of interesting about the data we get from this website, is that your first item, getting Recurve Bow, is actually higher win rate than getting a pickaxe first. This is really interesting for a couple reasons. One thing is that usually, this is definitely what I thought. I think there are a lot of other Yi-mains that shared this idea that early AD is best on Yi, and it's definitely, it's still good, but I guess maybe attack speed is actually kind of underrated, and maybe we're undervaluing it, even though it's early game. Maybe attack speed is still better than we think and is undervalued. That's one thing that we can take away from this potentially, since Recurve Bow, buying this as a first component purchase, is higher win rate than pickaxe. I guess another thing that's interesting is that pickaxe costs more gold. So the way stat websites work is that things that are more expensive tend to by default have higher win rates, because things that are more expensive are often bought by players that are more fed, have gone further into the game. You know what I mean? Like, if you okay, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail explaining that, but basically more expensive items by default, including components, more expensive items by default should have higher win rates. But the fact that a less expensive item has a higher win rate than a more expensive item, and we're talking about components here, makes it makes it an even stronger case that Recurve Bow as a first item is actually just straight up better. And so even if you had 875 or 900 whatever gold, it'd be better to get Recurve Bow, and even better is if you can get Recurve Bow with boots, or what I always try to go for is stay out on the map until I could get a pickaxe and recurve, but that's a lot of gold to stay out for. So ideally, Recurve Bow should be your number one prioritized component, according to the stat website. Kind of. It's kind of a new build. Some of it is stuff that we've already known, or stuff I've already talked about with other people. I talk about this stuff a lot on my Discord, and I've played the Rageblade Rush build on stream and stuff. But this Resolve secondary thing is more of that's more new. There are Yi-mains that do it, but they're not as well known. So this is the video basically. That's it. Let me know if you try this in your games, and if it ends up working out well for you. I'd be curious to see how you like it. Right, so it's something like this. Or, okay, pretend this Blue Smite item is my boots. Yeah, there you go. This is the build. Yep, with these runes. Coachless.gg. Okay, yes, thank you for mentioning it, Bird. The website's called coachless.gg. So for sure, Rageblade first? Yes. Yeah, this is one of those things that has been... Rageblade first, as a rush item for Yi, has been higher win rate than Bork for, I don't even know how many patches. It's actually been a huge number of patches. It's not just, 5 or even 10 patches. I'm pretty sure Rageblade Rush has been higher win rate than Bork for, a really long time, but people just always, blew it off as, The only reason it's high win rate is because like only Smurfs build it first, which actually that could only Smurfs would try a build like this, right? Which is actually a valid point. That could contribute to the skew. But the thing is, the number of games of Rageblade First Master Yi, it's not just like a mistake, if that makes sense. If you have enough sample size behind a statistic, it becomes much more believable, basically. I don't know if that makes sense. That's the build. Let me know how you like it in your games if you try it out. I'd be curious to hear what you think. Okay, that's it. Video over.